In a lot of ways, this is the kind of story I came on YouTube in the first place to tell. And I'm somewhat surprised it's a story I haven't told before, at least not on camera. On the other hand, I'm hesitant because there are probably like 4 really great stories here, all bundled up into one. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit philosophically about the problem of video game addiction. And I'm also going to tell a story of me just straight up picking up a woman, of me meeting a complete stranger, one of the only times in my life where I walked up on somebody with no other context and was just like, hey, you're beautiful, eat lunch with me. And a lunch date turned into a dinner date. We spent the whole day together, had a big whole romantic thing. And to some extent, it was a success. And to some extent, it was a dramatic failure because, main topic of this video, video game addiction. It turned out that she was a video game addict, and that bundles this up into one story.
There came a point when I realized maybe I spend a bit too much time playing video games. I thought, why don't I have any idea what I want to do with my life? And then I realized, no, that's completely wrong. I do have an idea of what I want to do. I've got lots of ideas. Why have I not done any of these things? It's because they're hard. They take time to get good at. What did I want to give up video games for? I like video games. Video games are fun. They're relaxing. They make me happy. And alas, I once again return to playing.
Taking half a step back, before I made this video, I made a quick survey of other videos on YouTube from within the last 1 year dealing with quitting video games. I wasn't looking for the word addiction. I was looking for videos talking about the importance of quitting video games. Earlier today, in the last few days, I've been listening to an audiobook about the history of slavery. I'm going to say very little about it now because it's completely inevitable. We're going to do some kind of book review video on this book. It's a really interesting, really compelling book about the history of slavery. But what really struck me today was the absence of any positive plan for the future, the absence of any kind of positive utopian vision with the particular chapter of the history of slavery I was listening to today, where, you could kind of see the colonial government had these short-term coping strategies with creating a slave society. But it was like, did these guys ever stop and think, just looking at the next 50 years, how is this going to work out? What are we really trying to do here? In the same way, what really struck me as lacking in the videos I saw about quitting video games today was any kind of positive vision, any kind of positive motivation for quitting video games. And to some extent, I sympathize. We can all sympathize. I think the word addiction is a little bit overused or misplaced here, but there's a lot of self-loathing. A lot of the guys making these games, they don't feel a sense of pride and positive motivation. What they feel is a sense of worthlessness. I notice a lot of the online games now, they actually give you a display counter for how many hours you've played the game in total. So one guy actually had a screenshot of the game telling him, you've played this game for 2,700 hours.
When you have put tons of hours playing video games, there's usually a tipping point where you start to feel guilty. For some people, it can be 2,000 hours, 5,000 hours, 10,000 hours even. It's a moment where you basically realize you have an addiction and it interferes with the important things you need to be doing in your life. It's that state where you aren't doing anything else with your life and you want to do better things with your time. Playing video games is a way to escape, and it suppresses the real you and the real talents you have inside you that would have emerged if you weren't playing video games all day.
There's a sense of self-loathing, and then they kind of struggle with that self-loathing, and they think, oh, I could have learned to play guitar, I could have learned to be a great painter, I could have worked on my career, I could have had a girlfriend. And there's this cycle of self-hatred and self-recrimination, and no, I shouldn't play video games, I mustn't, even though it's enjoyable or even though they like it. But what's lacking there is this really positive vision of the future. And with human lifespans, let's say it's 5 years instead of 50 years. Hey, where do I want to be positively 5 years from now? What's my positive motivation for why I'm not playing video games, for why I'm doing something, way better with my life? To me, that's a funny pattern that's really lacking here. I got off an airplane at Vancouver Airport. And this is, I think, the only time in my life I've walked up on a female, a complete stranger, where there wasn't some kind of context that would either introduce her to me or me to her. So, what do I mean by that? I don't know. Like, all the time, women try to spark up with me. Like, a German woman in Thailand. We're both on vacation in Thailand, where there's that in common. Where the woman comes up to me and says, oh, hey, I'm going to go visit this Buddhist temple. What do you know about Buddhism? And then we start talking about Buddhism. I'm not saying there's a lot in common there, but there's some kind of context for why you started talking. Obviously, I've spent a lot of my life on university campuses and doing research. So if I'm doing research on a given topic and there's some other woman and she says, oh, hey, you're doing research on this topic, I also have this interest. So there's some kind, or vice versa. Maybe I start up with her. The vast majority of situations where either a woman is sparking up with me or I'm sparking up with her, there's no conclusion. I get to know them enough to figure out that I'm not really interested. The vast majority of times it goes nowhere. But I might be forgetting something. I'm now 40 years old. But this is the only time I can really remember distinctly where I was at an airport. You know what it is at airports. You got time to kill. There's nothing else to do. I was like, well, there's this beautiful woman standing here. She also has nothing else to do. Just as the rap songs would have it, I am just going to walk up on her and say, hey.
Oh, baby, you know it like a poet, baby, dog.
Let's go eat lunch together. Let's do something positive. You're standing around this airport. You're beautiful. I want to get to know you. But where there was nothing else, there was just me walking up to her and saying, hey, you're beautiful. Eat lunch with me. And it was a really long day where we ate lunch together. We spent the whole day together. We ate dinner together. The day ended up wrapping up around midnight. So remember, a lot of couples, if you kind of meet and you do it, it's like more than 3 dates in one day. The amount of quality time you'd have getting to know somebody under regular circumstances, if you take someone out to a movie or you meet someone for coffee, you might go on 3 dates with a person and not get to know them that well. As it happened in these circumstances, this is here in Western Canada, I really got to know her to a significant extent. Now, she lied to me about her age. She told me she was in her mid-20s. And at that time, I was either 36 or 37. And for me, mid-20s is fine. Like, when I'm on university campus, I'm avoiding women who are way down at the regular university age, who are like 19 or something. But if you tell me you're 25, okay, I don't see that as an unbridgeable gap. My current girlfriend is 26. We met when she was 24. Mid-20s for me is okay. But she told me she was in her mid-20s. And there were a bunch of really weird topics she was ignorant of. There was an airplane with pontoons. Not everyone knows the word pontoons. It was an airplane capable of takeoff and landing on the water. And she was just baffled by this. She was like, I didn't know anything like that existed. I've never seen or heard of that. It's like, you've been living under a rock? You know what I mean? There was sort of this series of odd things that you kind of think everyone knows. One of them was, there was where we ended up eating lunch. They're one of these stupid ice cream machines. So I'm vegan. She was not vegan. Where, you pull a lever like this and the ice cream kind of... She's never seen this before. And, I understand she's slightly freaked out, but I can remember when I was a child, this is really weird. You pull this lever and the machine kind of poos out the ice cream for you, This is a little weird. It's like, you got to 25 or something and you ain't ever, what have you been doing with your life? So there were other things that weren't really red flags or anything. There wasn't anything wrong. But, she told me that, she was becoming a dentist. And she didn't really want to become a dentist, but her grades were so bad that dentistry was really the best option she had. And there were kind of other things she regretted about her life. She told me about some of the personal tragedies she's come through. There were all these funny bits and pieces. And then at one point, she started asking me about video games. So if you guys have really watched this channel, you know I do have a history of video games from my childhood and from this brief, weird period where I was paid to be a video games journalist. And when I tell stories about that, I wasn't like a big successful video games journalist, but back in those days, the industry was really generous. So you just got a lot of free stuff from even being a really minor, trivial, of no significance video games journalist. I was treated really well by the industry. There were a lot of rewards for the short period of my life when I was video. So, I do know some stuff about video games. She starts talking about video games. And this is also weird. She knows nothing. She literally didn't know the word Sega. I think she didn't know the word Nintendo. And I'm making conversation. She asked me something about my own history playing video games growing up. And I start telling her. It's like, her story is, she got addicted to one of these PC-based, personal computer-based video games. One video game. And she never even tried any other video game. Her addiction to this one game was so absolute. It was a massively multiplayer online game. It was a game involving other people. And she played this game all day, every day. She did just enough schoolwork that she never dropped out of school or anything like that. She would talk to other human beings while she was at school. But she said the minute school ended, or the minute she was done her homework, she just did the minimum, that absolutely all of her waking hours went into playing this video game. And she just made the resolution, like a couple weeks before she happened to meet me, that she was never going to play any video games again. And I know maybe that's trivial, but it's like, wow, not to be addicted to video games, plural, but to be so addicted to just one video game that you never even tried other video games. This obsessive monomania. You've never heard of Sega or Nintendo. You just got dug into this one video game for years and years and years.
I get tired and mentally fatigued, and then I play a video game because it's low effort and easy and relaxing, and then I don't stop. And then I start to hate myself because I want to do all of these things, but I've been playing Minecraft for 10 hours, and instead of stopping and doing something productive, I just carry on playing Minecraft and feeling sorry for myself. And you might think this makes absolutely no sense, and you'd be right. It doesn't. However, at some point through all the self-loathing and time wasting, I decide that's it. No more games. From this point on, I'm gonna be productive.
Guilt motivates certain kinds of human behavior. Feeling awful, feeling like you could have done something better with your life, feeling that you could have been a great painter or a great musician, feeling the loss of your own potential, the loss of your youth, maybe that you've never had a boyfriend, never a girlfriend. I think the challenge is precisely on a human level, on a one-to-one level, not to just use negative motivation with people, not to just be punitive, but to have some kind of positive motivation to talk about whatever it is. And it's got to be unique to that person. Not everyone can be a painter. Not everyone can be a musician. None of this, it doesn't make sense in general. It has to make sense reaching out to that one person in specific and talk about positively what it is that they can be. For me, that was such an unexpected inversion, that whole situation. Because this woman, she wasn't fat. She wasn't, she didn't look in any way like she'd spent all her time indoors. The stereotype about video game addicts, that they're pale and unhealthy and obese and so on. No. She was beautiful. She was friendly. She was self-confident. She didn't seem shy or awkward at all from the first moment I walked up and sparked up conversation with her. She told me she was in her mid-20s. She was, in fact, in her early 20s. She was 20 years old, flat. She later revealed to me that she lied because she liked me. She wanted to encourage me. And you have the surreal realization, like, this is someone who's never used an ice cream machine before. I know, it's ridiculous. This is someone who spent so little time outside of her own house. I'm one of a tiny number of people she's ever had any kind of face-to-face conversation with, except for her own teachers and her own family members. And, you know, obviously what was also revealed in the end, that's how the date ended, was that she was a virgin. She'd never been in love. And when she revealed that to me, which she revealed in bed with me at my apartment, I said to her, look, let's get a hotel room for you. I'm going to put you in a hotel room and I'm going to sleep in this bed alone. And, you know, I think that was the responsible, if anticlimactic, end of that evening. What is being lost on planet Earth as our range of instincts are ever more funneled into dissimulated forms of gratification? I mean, you see what our instincts are in just looking at video games. People want to kill each other. It's sad. People want to act out the pantomime of shooting another person in the head again and again and again for 2,700 hours, for hundreds of hours. You know, the lust for revenge and violence and competition and these things, you know. But I mean, another instinct we all have is the desire to learn, is curiosity, the desire for novelty, for new challenges. Just even the feeling of being impatient and frustrated. That's a huge part of my feeling going through school. I couldn't believe what a waste of time school was. And, you know, those instincts can be funneled into making your own life better or whatever. If I'm being wildly optimistic here, sure, making the world a better place. And what I hear again and again, just now and looking over videos from the last year, is people saying, oh, video games are fun, video games are enjoyable. Enjoy yourself, but don't take it too far. Don't become an addict. And I really feel like the message and the moral of the story we have to take out of that is the opposite. Don't have fun. Don't. If this is something you believe is bad in principle, don't take poison and dilute it. Don't take the poison at all. If you're unhappy with your life, sit there and really feel that unhappiness and start thinking about constructively how you're going to change it. How are you going to change your life, your circumstance, the world around you. Don't take recreational drugs that'll distract you from that misery. Don't play video games that'll distract you from that misery. Don't, you know, maybe fun itself, maybe enjoyment itself is kind of the last, you know, the last sacred cow, the last unquestioned value here, the last thing that nobody wants to question the positive or negative value of. Nobody wants to look in the mirror and say, as an adult, why am I playing games at all?